Long before Germany invaded Poland and the bombs fell on Pearl Harbor, there was already a war burning in the east.
We call it World War II, but it didn't just begin in Europe.
These bullet scars mark the beginning of a full-blown war.
14 years and millions dead, yet so few outside China know this story.
This is the Eastern Front, the earliest and longest battlefield against fascism, a front that should never be forgotten. Well, here we are, Tom, at the Lugo Bridge. It's also known as the Marco Polo Bridge in the West.
I've read about this place. So this is where China's fight against fascism started?
Well, yes and no. On July 7th, 1937, Japanese troops launched their full-scale invasion here. But China's resistance against fascism began much earlier. In 1931 was the September 18th incident.
What happened then?
It was a dark day in history. Japanese forces staged a railway explosion near Shenyang. False flag to justify attacking Chinese troops that same night. It marked the beginning of Japan's invasion of Northeast China.
The war against fascism, we call it World War II, but it didn't just begin in Europe.
Well, long before Germany invaded Poland and the bombs fell on Pearl Harbor, there was already a war burning in the east. I spoke with a historian for some more explanation.
For a long time, the prevailing view was that the Second World War started with the outbreak of war in Europe. However, research shows that the conflict in China began as early as September 1931. There were two hotbeds of the war, Germany and Japan. Japan began its aggression the earliest. It started its invasion of China in 1931. Therefore, China's resistance, which began in 1931, was the prologue to the global anti-fascist war.
The world reacted immediately. Global media unanimously denounced Japan's invasion as calculated imperialist aggression, exploiting turmoil to seize Chinese territory.
So while Europe was still at peace, China fought alone?
Yes, and for years, no allies, no lend-lease, just resistance.
We're touching history here.
All these bullet scars mark the beginning of a full-blown war. Battle lines stretched more than 1,800 kilometers, with fighting raging across over 10 provinces of China, covering 1.6 million square kilometers. Around 400 million people in China lived under the shadow of war. Well, Tom, here at this museum, it really tells us how this war is remembered today.
Let's have a look around.
Yeah. Japan's invasion and China's nationwide resistance quickly drew global attention. Major international newspapers like the Washington Post, the New York Times, and Pravda reported on the conflict, while U.S. President Roosevelt implicitly criticized Japan's aggression and noted that the Chinese people were the first to stand up and fight against the aggressors in this war.
I can't imagine what the war cost the country.
China knows only too well the cost of war, especially the human cost. Each picture here has a story to tell. 5,098 photos represent the number of days that the Chinese people fought this war.
How many lives were lost?
35 million soldiers and civilians. $95 million were displaced, driven from their homes into hunger and terror. And beyond the lives lost, the economic cost was enormous, over $600 billion US.
How does a nation survive that?
Sometimes it's not about surviving, but about refusing to surrender, even when hope seemed gone.
因为我们受侵略时间最长嘛。
Among all occupied countries, China suffered the longest invasion and paid the heaviest price. This is simply because our strength then was no match for Japan's, but our will to resist was. Surrender might have spared lives, but we chose to fight. Outgunned, we fought with spirit and resolve. We fought fiercely, even knowing the cost.
我的钢铁比不过你，但是我只能比人，比我的抵抗意志。
14 years and millions dead, yet so few outside China know this story. I'm realising just how much history is often overlooked.
You're right.
This song, it sounds so sad. What's the story behind it?
Well, it's a story about a shepherd boy named Wang. He led Japanese troops into an ambush to save his village. He was killed in their rage. He was only 13 years old.
He was just a child, and he gave his life.
He was just one of many. Women and children all across China joined the resistance. They carried supplies, gathered intelligence. Some even picked up weapons to fight. This war spared no one.
When a nation is fighting for its survival, everybody becomes a soldier. Are those who lived through this still with us?
Yes, there are, but we're losing them as time passes. Their memories hold truths that no history book can ever hold. Chen Xiangli joined the war at only 16, one of millions who rose to fight for his home and his country. Now 103, he recalls a life shaped by resistance.
他开始没有枪，我给我一个刀，这么宽这么长。
They gave me a big knife with a red tassel and 4 grenades and told me, take rifles from the Japanese with these. I fought in tunnels and minefields, even built my own explosives. Once, snow hit our air vents, but the rising heat gave us away. We buried the guns and only carried grenades. If the Japanese dug through, we'd charge. Whoever made it out fought.
打说不怕恨敌人呐，要怕搁在后头了。
I wasn't afraid during battle. I hated the enemy so much, so I put fear aside. Before battle, we wrote our names and villages and chose successors. We were ready to die, but first to fight.
China fought for 14 years. Did that have a bigger impact on the wider war?
Well, that's a good question. Some believe China's resistance changed the entire course of the war.
我们这个作战不仅是中国本身的。
The fight wasn't just about China's defense and survival. It tied down Japanese forces and drained their war resources, playing a key role in the global victory against fascism.
对于取得全球性的反法西斯战争的胜利是极其重要的。
And how did the international community see China's role at that time?
Well, leaders across the world recognized China's sacrifice, and these are just some examples. Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill all knew that without China tying down Japan, history could have been very different.
So China didn't just fight, it also contributed to the establishment of a united global front against fascism.
And it also strengthened the Allied power. On the day Pearl Harbor burned, China proposed a global pact against fascism. Weeks later, the declaration by United Nations was signed, led by China, US, UK, Soviet Union, marking the formal establishment of the World Anti-Fascist United Front.
So this is a map of the operations of the Chinese Expeditionary Force.
That's right. China also actively supported the Southeast Asian Front, sending troops all the way to Burma to help it fight Japan.
消灭了这个面北地区的日军，打通了从印度经。
China's troops helped clear Japanese forces from northern Burma, reopened the supply route from India to Yunnan, and established oil pipelines. The battles in Burma significantly died down Japanese forces. China also supported anti-Japanese resistance in neighboring countries, such as Vietnam.
China also served as a crucial base for Allied operations in the Asia-Pacific theater. It provided vital support by offering air bases, military intelligence, and other assistance.
This support must have given the Allies significant manpower, material, and financial resources.
Yeah.
And diplomatically, China didn't just join, it was a founding member of the United Nations.
That's right, and in recognition of its long fight against Japanese aggression, China was given the honor to be the first country to sign the UN Charter.
Who signed the Charter on China's behalf?
One of the Chinese representatives was Mr. Dong Bi-wu, representing the Communist Party of China. It took him 10 days to reach San Francisco. During the conference, he advocated for the rights of smaller nations and those under colonial rule. His presence showed the world the CPC's determination to seek a better future, not just for the Chinese people, but for all of humanity. So, after 80 years, this remains to be China's dual legacy, helping defeat fascism and build a world that rose from its ashes.
Before coming here today, I thought I knew quite a lot about World War II, but actually I know very little about this part of history.
Well, many people outside China don't, but this is the Eastern Front, the earliest and longest battlefield against fascism, a front that should never be forgotten. And the spirit of resistance still echoes in every scar on this land.